Hi, everybody. My name is Lolita Jackson. I'm the vice chair of the board of the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. So I want to welcome you all here who have not been here before, along with my fellow board member, Mark Willis, who managed to just walk out. There he is. Okay. So we are both board members. We want to welcome you to our space if you've never been here before. Also want to thank Rockefeller Brothers Fund for partnering with us on this event. We're thrilled to be partners here. We look forward to seeing a lot of you there on Saturday as well, if you were able to get a ticket, because apparently it's sold out, which is very great news. I will be there, so I'll see you up there. Just a few words about the museum before we get started. We have 4 main programs: education, public programming, exhibits, which you're seeing around you, and partnerships. And our offerings are about showcasing the diverse voices of jazz. We welcome artists and audiences from every background and create a space where all perspectives can be celebrated. Our 2 artistic directors are Christian McBride, who has won 9 Grammys, very proud of him, and John Batiste, who many of you probably know from his many escapades, including winning an Oscar. They shape our exhibits, and they help offer a fresh, exciting way to engage with jazz in many ways. Education is really the heart of what we do, and we have 120 free and low-cost workshops. We like to make this space free as much as we can, so that costs money. So we definitely have partners who come alongside us to do that. We have workshops, performances as yoga that happens alongside jazz music, and 200,000 people over the years, either through streaming, through coming in person. We just did a big program in the park that day that it was thunderstorming on Juneteenth. We were out there. It was great. And I want to give you an example of the programming before I turn it over to Loren to introduce our guests. So we have a program that we started. It was actually my idea, called Jazzu Harlem. It's something that I recognized. I'm a part of a Japanese-American organization where there's a deep appreciation for jazz music, and there's a deep affinity between the Black community and the jazz community and the Japanese community, to the point that right after 3/11, there was one of the first fundraisers. I worked for the mayor's office at the time. One of the first fundraisers was by Black jazz musicians in Harlem. They said, "You kept us alive in the 70s when nobody was listening to us here, and we want to celebrate you and appreciate you for that." Joe Sample and others were talking about that. So I came up with the idea to have this program. We are now partnered with International House in Japan, as well as Japan Society here, and we have a number of programs that we're putting together. Ryan and I, where's Ryan? He's in the back. So Ryan is our program director. He and I are going to Japan, and we're going to have a program around the Jazzu Harlem experience with a Black American musician who now lives in Fukuoka. I will be interviewing him. I'll also be performing with him because I'm a jazz singer outside of all of this. And then we're going to do more programs through the year that we hope you will come back and listen to. That's just an example of some of the partnerships that we do. And we hope to see you again, and we hope to see you Saturday. So now I'm going to turn it over to Loren.
Thank you very much. I'm Loren Schoenberg, the founding director and now the senior scholar at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of our board and also on behalf of John Batiste and Christian McBride. We all welcome you here. These events are live streamed. Not only that, but they're part of our archive where, frankly, they're seen around the world. So it's a very exciting evening for us. We have 2 very special people here, and I'd like to introduce one to, and you'll have to forgive me for reading this because I wanted to make sure that I hit a couple of notes here about our 2 very special guests. One is my a best friend, so we'll get to him second. Stephen Heintz is president and CEO of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, a private family foundation with an endowment of approximately $1.2 billion that advances social change for a more just, sustainable, and peaceful world. He coined the term, and this really struck with me, I've been talking about it with people, acupuncture philanthropy, to describe his philanthropic approach of leveraging modest financial assets to trigger larger systemic changes on critical issues. And I'm just going to fast forward to one other part because he has an amazing career, as you can imagine, which I think we'll get into during our talk here. But this is what it says. Before joining RBF in 2001, Heintz co-founded and served as the president of, I hope I'm saying it right, DEMOS. Yes, right, which I'm sure you all know, a public policy organization that works to reduce political and economic inequality and to broaden citizen engagement in American democracy. And as I was thinking about these things, I realized that a lot of what the museum does in a micro way is a lot of what you have been doing, I guess it's fair to say, in a macro way around the world for a long time. So this is part of what we want to, the discussion that we'll get into. Our other guest here is we worked together with Benny Goodman's band 40 some odd years ago. We're like brothers, kind of. We both came to New York at the same time, and Ken, even if he wasn't here, I would say it, is regarded internationally as, if not one of the premier jazz clarinetists in the planet. Has recorded and played in virtually every continent, has won incredible awards. And actually, we were talking about it today, was here at the very first planning conference that we had for the Jazz Museum in 2001, funded by the NEA. I put together a group of about 30 people, intellectuals and musicians and teachers and people in the various foundations. And Ken was one of the representatives at that thing. So I want to welcome you back. You've been here since. So please join me in welcoming Stephen Heintz and Ken Peplowski. I'm so glad that you're both here. And now I'm going to stop talking, which is very hard to do, and just ask a question, just to get things going. How did you two come to know each other?
Well,
how did it happen? And I think you want to get close to the mic because.
Do you want to field this one, or do you want me to? Yeah.
Sure. Just because I love Ken's music. So my wife and I, Lisa, who's here, started listening to Ken in various clubs in New York and on CDs and so forth, and we were just constantly blown away.
Well, this is being live streamed, right? And these comments are going to be taken as fact by everyone.
Good, because this is not fake news.
Okay. All right.
This is real news.
Only I can fix it.
And so finally, after one of these events at Birdland, I went up to Mr. Peplowski and I introduced myself and I said, "Wonder if you'd be interested in having lunch, because I have an idea about something we might do together." And I told him that I worked for this foundation, and he very kindly said, "Yeah, let's do that." So we started talking, and we started seeing each other more frequently at his gigs, and we've become good friends.
Yeah. And we talked about everything from a festival to a one-off concert, and I think we decided to try it, test the waters first with a one-off concert. But in talking to Stephen and his wonderful staff, they kind of let me go a little bit crazy there with the billing, because we've packed it in. I mean, it's really
got 10 musicians.
Yeah, it's a mini jazz festival in the confines of a concert.
Well, then that leads us right to the question. What's the this is not just, quote unquote, another jazz concert, come in and play, the standard old things and get off. You've curated this in such a way that, you've got musicians, frankly, I'd say from A to Z, in a certain kind of way, that usually don't wind up on the stage together. So I guess I'd like to ask a question for you and a question for you. First would be, how did you put together this group? What's your goal with it? And then my second question would be, given your background and your interest in things, how does a concert like this fit into your scheme of what you've accomplished?
Well, I think from our first conversation, we realized we were on the same page about a lot of things in life, not just jazz music. And in this increasingly crazy world of ours, I knew that Stephen and Ellie and everybody at the Rockefeller Brothers Fund would be willing to have a timely, make a timely statement, I should say. And that's why I called this concert The Sound of Jazz Music of Our Time and For Our Time, because in jazz music, to this day, it's a genre where everybody gets together. That includes the audience and the musicians on stage. Every gender, every ethnic group, age doesn't mean a thing. So thinking along those lines, I thought how much more powerful of a statement we could make than to really, really point that out in a show. And, we don't have to say much. We just say, look, all these people can get together that have never gotten together before. None of these lineups have existed before this concert and may not afterwards. But that's the beauty of jazz, and that's the way I think life should be, frankly. more and more these days, where you don't prejudge people, you don't make false accusations, and my ride's here.
It's too soon. It's
yeah, but so that's along those lines. That's what we were thinking.
Yeah, and it really fits for us because we have an arts and culture program, which is how this fits directly. But we are also deeply involved in the issues of American democracy. It's one of the 3 global themes that we work on in this country and in other places around the world. But right now, we are deeply concerned about the future of American democracy and deeply committed to trying to do everything we can with extraordinary partners across this country who are working to protect and improve our democracy. And Loren, you kind of mentioned some of my earlier work. When people ask me, what's the through line of your career? I actually say democracy, basically. Yeah. And I see jazz as an expression and as a process of democracy in the way that Ken was just describing. It's an art form that is truly American. Mm-hmm. It's an art form that has been the soundtrack for a lot of our history. Some of the good parts of our history and some of the tragic parts of our history. It is an art form in which individual expression is rewarded, but collaboration is mandatory, and that's democracy. It's about building consensus out of disparate voices, as Ken was just describing. So to me, jazz is the music of democracy, and so this program, at this moment in our history, is designed to reflect that, highlight it, and celebrate it.
Well, we had a wonderful event here celebrating Stanley Crouch and his work, and we also had a wonderful exhibit of Ralph Ellison's things, which we have in our collection. And I'm just thinking about the intersections here, about basically what we're talking about here is kind of like a fresh understanding of American history by talking about all of the elements and musically speaking. And this is where I want to get to your personnel for the concert. We have a long history here of inviting young musicians, older musicians, and we don't think about style, and we don't think about the things that separate the music. And it's kind of like a perfect recipe for a democratic kind of sound just by people who do it. Now, my question is, how did you pick the people that you picked, and who did you pick?
Okay, so I can...
Can you remember?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I'm on it. That's one.
Good start.
There's a guy who holds sticks and beats on things. That's called a drummer. Yes.
Drummer, yes.
No, I have. So here's the lineup. Tell me if I forgot somebody, please. Randy Brecker, the trumpet. Otto Rovati on saxophone, tenor saxophone. Mariel Bildstein on trombone, Bruce Harris on trumpet, Brianna Thomas singing, 2 piano players, Rosano Sportiello and Ehud Asheri, and then 2 longtime friends of mine, Peter Washington on bass and Willie Jones III on drums, and I'll play a song here and there myself.
Yeah.
I just have to say, having Peter Washington and having Willie Jones, who work with all the time, that's like having a double Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
It is.
In terms of a rhythm section, it is.
Doesn't get any better.
It's heaven.
Right. Yeah, and it also, in answer to your full answer to your question. So I've booked a few festivals over the years, and there's a couple that I'm still involved in, and it always kind of irks me when a promoter does a specific show and let me explain this, like they'll do women in jazz. And my answer to that is, why don't you just hire women in the concert and integrate them into the band instead of having them off to the side as a novelty group in a way, So we talked about that. Yeah. And so, 30-some% of the group, and I didn't book by percentages, but just so happened that 1/3 of the group are females, and I am conscious about more and more now. I never used to think about this, and I know that Benny Goodman at one time had an answer to people that would say to him, well, you're a pioneer of racial integration because you had Teddy Wilson and Lyle Hampton. And his answer in later years was, well, I don't think that way. I just hired the best people for the job.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did. But I did want to make sure we included everyone, you know, African Americans, white people, females, as many diverse, great musicians as I could squeeze in to 2 hours, you know. So, and frankly, a fair amount of immigrants in this band too.
Aren't we all?
Well, we all
Well, actually,
are,
no,
yes.
that's complicated.
Yeah, you're right.
That's very
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's good to address these things and to acknowledge them. I'm curious about, from the purview of the foundation, is this an unusual foot towards the arts and towards jazz, or is it part of a larger scheme? Is it part of a larger context of?
It's definitely part of a larger commitment to the arts. And that really, you know, goes back to the Rockefeller family itself. As everybody knows, a huge commitment to the arts in this city, but all over the world. I mean, this is the family that is largely responsible for the founding of the Museum of Modern Art. Major benefactors to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Major benefactors to public art in this city, all over the city. Major benefactors of Lincoln Center. Without the Rockefeller family, there probably would have been no Lincoln Center. So this is a family who understands that arts are essential to a healthy society because they bring out they illuminate our common humanity. They inspire us to do things together, and when we experience art or culture together, we form relationships that otherwise wouldn't exist. And the Rockefellers know that. So we have a very active program, and I'm happy to introduce our program director of a program we call the Culpeper Arts and Culture Program, Ben Rodriguez Cubeñas, who's sitting right here in the second row. And that's a grant-making program that supports arts and cultural organizations in the greater metropolitan area, mostly small and mid-sized organizations that are part of this extraordinary and diverse fabric of culture in the world's cultural capital, you know? And a few years ago, because we also have this wonderful facility out in Westchester County called Pocantico, which is the former estate of the Rockefeller family, built for John D. Rockefeller himself at the turn of the 20th century, and the home to 4 generations of the family before it became a venue that we utilize as a conference center, as a historic house museum. And because of this work on culture, we started thinking, we have all these buildings in this beautiful place and all this art. We have an incredible collection of art, and maybe we should start experimenting with having some artists in residence and give them the opportunity to live and create in this spectacular setting. And that was so successful. Then, this is going back to about 2008, then we decided we really needed to bring the public in more and more to engage with the artists, sometimes for performances or readings or exhibits. And that also was hugely successful. And then, you know, we had some wonderful events where we got rained out because all of this was happening outdoors. And it was only in the summer months because we didn't have a, you know, a presenting facility. So we finally got the idea to take what is an extraordinary, and you will see this if you come on Saturday, this is where we're going to be. It was a huge greenhouse that was built for John D. Rockefeller to house his orange trees in the winter. It was an orangerie modeled after the one at Versailles. So, you know, this is a very grand greenhouse with Palladian windows and skylights, you know, down the whole row of the ceiling. And in it, we have a fine art studio, a gallery, an exhibit space, a kind of gathering space, and a whole performance wing with indoor and outdoor possibilities. And so that now has been a force multiplier. And we're doing more and more of these residencies, more and more performances. We haven't had a real focus on jazz, but it's really my passion. And so I finally decided, you know, once in a while I get to have a little prerogative as president and CEO, and I started talking to my colleagues, and they were not resistant. They were actually quite enthusiastic, which was great. So we've had some other jazz performances there. Sometimes we partner with the Jazz Forum in Tarrytown, which is a great organization.
Mark Morganelli.
Mark Morganelli. But we are really excited for this, and I'm hoping that it will actually be the beginning of something that continues in the future.
Thanks. Just to add, we're also going to have fun
We are going to have
on Saturday.
Yeah, we are.
Because, the other thing, to go back to your question about why I put all these people together, I like to, and you've done this through your whole career with your big bands and small group things, people you've had at the museum. You don't think about boundaries, musical boundaries, or this is a modern musician, this is a swing person. I hate those things. It's only certain writers that like to put us in boxes because it's easier to describe people that way. But I had an email from somebody, or a Facebook text. I'm still learning about the internet. Sorry. No, I had a private message saying, how is Randy Brecker going to fit in? He's such a modern trumpet player. Well, I have news for you. Randy Brecker is one of the best players of the American Songbook I've ever heard in my life, in addition to everything else he's done and can do.
Yeah. He was on one of the big band records that we did way back when, in the most traditional setting. I want to demonstrate something, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please. I won't demonstrate anything. You'll be happy to know.
Ready?
An interpretive dance?
No.
All right, so if I do this on the piano, hear that? Yeah. I was thinking about that when you were talking about the Rockefeller place.
Yeah.
And I was thinking also about Harlem and the museum that, there's overtones. Those were overtones. I hit a low note, and then the other tones went kind of like, but I didn't touch them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about the museum, first of all, in Harlem, that, we're in this neighborhood, and you don't need to, I don't want to say you don't need to have a museum, because of course you do have to have a museum, but the neighborhood itself in a certain kind of way resonates with the history of, I won't even name the names, just imagine who walked on the sidewalk that you walked here, coming here tonight, everybody from Paul Robeson to blah, blah. And then think about the resonance of the Rockefeller legacy and what they've done, and are bringing this music up there, and maybe bringing some of that down here in terms of collaboration. Not to get too far ahead.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting resonance.
It is.
And I think it's full of possibilities, and I can't think of anybody better to put it together than this program that you've done. It's like a great opening gambit.
Yeah. I should say, by the way, that various members of the Rockefeller family also had a deep personal engagement with jazz. So Nelson Rockefeller, who of course was governor of New York and vice president of the United States, was a huge jazz fan. And he knew Louis Armstrong personally. And he had Louis Armstrong come play at parties that they would have in the same venue where we're going to be on Saturday at Pocantico. Benny Goodman played there, Dave Brubeck played there. So the family, has this history with jazz. In fact, there's one really great story that a family member told me that he was the son of Nelson Rockefeller. And they were having the debutante ball for his sister. And his father hired Louis Armstrong and his orchestra to play for this debutante ball. And at the end of the evening, the person who told me this story said he was just going for a walk, and he went into the indoor tennis court, and there was Louis Armstrong sitting alone on a chair counting the money. He wanted to make sure Nelson Rockefeller paid him every dollar.
I have a question for Ken, but I just want to add something to your Rockefeller legacy that I think you probably don't know. 51 years ago, I was a volunteer in New York at a place called the New York Jazz Museum. Now, the New York Jazz Museum was on the east wall of the city center between 6th and 7th. And it was a carriage house there. It was a Rockefeller-owned carriage house.
Kidding.
And there was a woman who worked for him who I knew back then, Evelyn Cunningham. Maybe that name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, she was, I didn't know her, but the people who built the museum, that early jazz museum, which has not been around in 50 some odd years, went to Evelyn Cunningham, and she approached the Rockefeller family.
Oh,
and
that's
said,
great.
can we have this carriage house to be the first jazz museum in New York? So anyway.
Oh, that's
If
fantastic.
we hadn't had this conversation, it wouldn't have come up.
Oh, that's great.
Did you know her? Or?
I did know her before she died.
This is our co-chairman, really. Well, we should talk about, because she's a very important person.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more
Yeah,
about that story.
Yeah. So my question is, I'd like to get into the international component for a moment because of your involvement and yours. You did one record, if I remember correctly, with an orchestra in Bulgaria.
I did, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have recorded and played so many things that don't fit into people's common conception of, oh, you play with these people, you play this kind of jazz music. You've kind of gone all over the place. Are there any of those records that are either your favorites or that you thought of maybe when you were putting this concert together from your experiences? I mean, you've been to so many countries.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of all folds into the older I get, I have to say, and I'll bet you feel the same way, the less I care about what other people, not what they think, but of course you care if somebody likes your music or not, even if you say you don't. But I really don't care if I get a bad review, get a good review, if people call me a Benny Goodman musician or call me this or that. Those things don't even affect me anymore because of all the interactions with so many different players, so many different kinds of music, musicians. I've even done some records for pop musicians over the years, and as you know, I like to listen to everything. But
Leon Redbone.
Leon Redbone was one. Marianne Faithfull, I played on a couple tracks on one of her records. I did a Madonna session. That's a whole nother story. But
And a movie soundtrack?
yes, that's right. Yeah, I'll tell that one later. But because of all that, again, I like that philosophy of you just hire whoever seems right for the night. And I like to put, Randy Brecker with, let's say, Rosano Sportiello, right? Because people, again, Rosano was, his big mentor was Barry Harris, one of the all-time great piano players and educators, came from the bebop school, and funny enough, Rosano sounds the closest to Teddy Wilson I think I've ever heard. So he doesn't think about that stuff, So, the musicians, generally, you'll find they're open to almost anything, Years back when it was here in New York, another institution that's gone, I did some gigs at the Knitting Factory, just playing complete free jazz. And believe me, it was called free jazz for more than one reason. But
They didn't pay you, is
that's
that it?
exactly
I
right.
was trying to find the drum set.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So-
I see.
You know, the other thing that strikes me about this, and I imagine this is part of the magic that we're going to experience on Saturday. There's risk in this,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know. I mean, you're bringing together people you highly respect and have worked with in various ways, heard in different settings. But when you mix them together the way you're doing it, there's risk, and that's part of the beauty.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, also, I used to do these Newport All-Star groups for George Wein for many years. And that was what he was about. It was combining different musicians that you wouldn't think would play together.
Yeah.
He would just almost pick people out of a hat. These are my favorites. I'm going to call them for this tour. So we did some very interesting lineups over the years. And then played a lot of jazz parties, which are like, if you don't know about those, we don't really have a lot of those in the New York area, but a lot of other states used to have these weekend events, usually at hotels. Everybody would stay there. And they'd put together about 10 to 20 musicians and all mixing and matching the sets. And some good, some bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes the chemistry doesn't work, but you learn over the years. Okay, this person doesn't play well with others. This person is great to mix in. And then the final thing was being involved in the jazz cruise. I booked that for 3 or 4 years, and then I'm still a consultant for them. So that's what a lot of that cruise is about. That actually, I've put together an opening show for them over the years where people are getting on the ship. And we have about a 45-minute rehearsal, and I have to put together this kind of gala opening concert. So I have to pick the right people because we can't really rehearse. Literally, we don't have the time. So we have to do more of a talk through than anything, and I have to trust that everybody has looked at whatever music I've sent them and made some arrangements and things like that. So you do learn it over the years, hopefully. You could tell me on Saturday night.
I'll talk to you Saturday night, yeah. And there's no rehearsal for this weekend either, is there?
Yes, many rehearsals, Stephen.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No,
As I
no,
said,
no.
no rehearsal for this.
No rehearsals.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, speaking of no rehearsals,
Right. You want to play something? Shall we?
yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
do it.
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'm a saxophone player, by the way. I'm just filling in here.
Can I have an A, please?
Hey. These are the musician jokes.
Okay, perfect. All right, cut that out.
Which one?
Okay, we're going to do a song played by everyone from Coleman Hawkins to Lester Young to Betty, you name it. This is called Just You, Just Me. And Thelonious Monk wrote a piece called Evidence, which you may know. I see somebody nodding in the back. And Evidence is based on that song. And if you think about the brain of Thelonious Monk, so Just You, Just Me equals Just Us, which means justice. And then he came from justice to evidence. So there it is, that song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. In E flat, right? 3 flats like your car. Okay, come on.
all knuckles. I'm a saxophone player, but I'm happy to fill in on the piano and fill in.
Good job.
Yeah,
Really nice.
Nice.
Okay. You know, it's so funny. I've known you for 40 some odd years, and this is going to sound unctuous, but I don't care. You've continued to grow. And I think a lot of people maybe don't even really understand about what jazz really is. You alluded to it before. It's kind of like I Ching. It really is. And when we play, we reflect you. It's a big circle. Talk about democracy. And, you know, it all kind of comes together in a certain way, but many players I know, even some of the famous ones, they kind of rehash a lot, almost like people who tell the same story again and again. You know, some people tend to rehash things and just kind of make the same point twice. And then they go back and they repeat it again. and
they make the same point
twice.
Yes.
But my point was, you don't do that in your playing. And I've always, we never really talk about it, but what do you think about when you play? Or what do you do? I'm in awe of you, as most people are. I mean,
how does it happen?
You heard what he played, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
what goes through your mind when you play?
To be honest, ideally, you learn, you know, my whole thing, as you know, is the American standards mostly. And by American standards, that's not just Gershwin and Cole Porter, that includes my real musical hero, Duke Ellington, and Thelonious Monk, and all those great composers. So, because I never liked my own writing, you know, I've always been dissatisfied, and I always felt, to be quite honest, Loren, if I even see the liner notes or see a CD, if anybody remembers those, and you look at the lineup, and you look at the track listings, I start to glaze over when I see all original songs, because just the mathematical odds of being a Gershwin or a Duke Ellington or a Billy Strayhorn or Cole Porter, pretty slim, really. Even in those days, there weren't that many great composers. So I'm in the category of there's enough material out there. I'm always digging for things to play. So when I'm up on the bandstand, I would like to think I've learned a song so well that I'm not thinking about it at all. Yeah, and so in the best moments, it is, I hate to say this, but it's kind of a Zen kind of a thing. You could almost stand back and listen to yourself play in the best moments, because you're not thinking about it, you're just reacting off of everybody, and that does include the audience. If it's a great audience, now I've played, if you play for a bad audience, or sometimes, you know, because I travel a lot, if it's a not great rhythm section, you'd learn a discipline of blocking out the things that are getting in your way, and then you try to just perform for yourself in a way, and you could still have what you consider a good night because you've just let everything go and you've learned to just, as they say, go with the flow. So I guess the answer is I'm not thinking about, certainly not thinking about the changes to that song or a song that I play, generally, unless I'm just first learning a song. But the other part of the answer to that is, well, first of all, I appreciate your compliment, but I feel like if you stop trying to learn and experience, you know, new things as a musician, you might as well pack it in, you know, because that's the whole thing about jazz music. It's, you mentioned, you know, people are meeting that have never met before, one-of-a-kind things, groupings, and also part of that Zen thing is when everybody gets up there, you know, that we will have called the songs, you know, before we get on the bandstand. We'll say, what about this song? Do you like this song? Do you like this song? But when you're up there, you're just feeding off of each other and just trying to play. And I will listen to, you know, if I hear Randy Brecker play an interesting thing, I might go home later and figure, okay, what did he play? You know, what made that so great on that song, you know? And you don't try to imitate, but you do it first. You know, we all grew up listening to our heroes and trying to play just like them, but ideally, you form your own identity after a few years, and you can incorporate all of those influences.
I'll ask you a question, kind of similar in the sense. When you started, I was here, I saw it. I saw how your career went. I think it went into places that, when we met in this 1980 or whenever it was, you probably couldn't have imagined, right?
Right.
Going to
Yeah.
Bulgaria and
Yeah.
recording with a Bulgarian orchestra or something like that. Now, isn't it funny, though? See, I catch myself with the other thing. When I say Bulgarian, it's almost like, well, gosh, this is being recorded. So, you know, it's interesting. I say it like it's some odd thing. Maybe people there think this is odd. I don't mean to objectify them. What's the point that I'm getting to? The point that I'm getting to is where you started.
Yeah.
When you started your career, and you mentioned like that democracy and democratic values seem to be the through line in a certain kind of way. What's your version of Ken's story in terms of things that you looked for, things, values that were important to you, and how did you go from A to B to C and wind up here with us tonight talking about jazz? And also your Buck Clayton connection with
Yeah, that's a
talk about
that's
later.
a real.
Yeah.
It's an interesting and challenging question in some ways. So I guess so. The two things kind of happen simultaneously. My fascination and inspiration from democracy, and my inspiration from jazz. It kind of happened simultaneously, growing up. So literally, and I know this sounds trite, but I was in the third grade in 1960 during the Kennedy-Nixon campaign, and my third grade teacher in a public elementary school in a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri, decided to use the presidential campaign as a civics curriculum. So she arbitrarily divided my class into two parts and said, okay, you kids are going to follow the Nixon campaign and make a weekly report to the class, and you kids are going to follow the Kennedy campaign and do the same. And I was assigned to the Kennedy campaign, and I just really got into it, and my mother was very supportive of this, and that was it. I was inspired by the democratic process, by the possibility of leadership, by, you know, the things that he stood for, even as this little kid. And it was literally around the same time, because my parents, they were married in 1939. So they were part of the swing era. They were dancing to those bands, you know, Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey and all those wonderful big bands of that period. And they were playing that music at home, you know, on a record player. In fact, one of the first albums that I remember listening to that just kind of blew me away was the Carnegie Hall concert, Benny Goodman's Carnegie Hall concert in 1938, I think, which was the first integrated concert at Carnegie Hall and the first jazz concert at Carnegie Hall. And the range of musicians on that gig are amazing, including Buck Clayton, by the way, that we were talking about earlier. And so it was happening at the same time. And then I had these older brothers. I'm one of 5 boys, and I'm number 4. So there were 3 ahead of me. And they were off in college in the 60s, and they were coming home with, you know, with Miles Davis, and they were coming home with Dave Brubeck, and they were coming home with Thelonious Monk and the Modern Jazz Quartet. And so I was hearing that. I was getting, you know, the more traditional stuff from my parents, the kind of newer stuff from my brothers, and it all was going on at the same time. And it just has stuck with me ever since. They've been the two kind of driving parts of my life, as my wife will attest. I mean, we are listening to music at home almost to the point where she tells me, finally, can we just have some silence for a little while?
That's why I'm single at the age of 66.
Well, you know, another thing that probably, you know, is, you know, Ken, you are extraordinarily well-read, and you've turned me on to authors and things like that over the years. And just a random question, just to go somewhere. Who are some of your favorite authors that you go to try and understand the world that we're in today and these challenges of 2025?
Well, I'll give a short answer because there's, you know, well, for example, I reread a lot of authors, and I've been on a binge of some of my favorite authors, which would include Charles Dickens, Anton Chekhov, and Mark Twain, and also humorists that nobody remembers anymore. These great writers that mostly wrote for the New Yorker back in the day. S.J. Perelman, Robert Benchley, there was a guy named Frank Sullivan, but the fiction writers, it's interesting because they're talking about things that never seem to go away. The same problems, from 100 years ago, and they're still here, And the same way people think, they were such great writers. And I have a personal favorite that nobody knows about, and this gentleman just passed away, I think last year or 2 years ago. His name is Charles Portis, Portis. He wrote 4 or 5 novels and a collection of short stories and some great journalism pieces for the Oxford Review and some other publications.
How'd you find him?
Just reading some book reviews and things like that, and you read something that interests you, and they had reissued. Actually, people would know him because he wrote the book that became the movie True Grit. Yeah. But if you read the book, it's a whole thing in and of itself. Yeah. It's from the perspective of that girl that's in the movie. It's in her voice, and it sounds so true. Mm. And he did this. He wrote just about interesting characters, a lot of Southern characters, black, white, didn't matter to him. And he's just fascinated by people that are a little bit different, Mm-hmm. And so I just love his writing.
Kind of like jazz musicians.
Yes, actually.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Are we going to play again?
Can I plug a book while we're talking?
I was hoping you would.
While we're talking about literature,
please.
Because jazz, the music of our time and for our time. There's a new novel out by Germany's most successful fiction writer. His name is Daniel Kellman, and he's living here in New York. And his new book is called The Director, and it's the fictionalized version of a real German movie director named G.W. Pabst.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And G.W. Pabst escaped the Nazis, came to Hollywood, hated Hollywood because they wouldn't let him make the kind of movies he really wanted to make. He was an artist. And then his mother took very ill she was in Austria. They go back to take care of the mother, and the war begins, and they are trapped.
Oh.
And he's Jewish, but he gets recruited by the propaganda ministry to make films for the Reich. And I haven't finished the book. Lisa has, but I'm halfway through it. It's a brilliant book. It's called The Director, and it really gets to the question of what happens to art in a period of authoritarianism. How do you keep your principles and yet survive? And the complicated relationships, and he's dealing with Leni Riefenstahl, who made the extraordinary Triumph of the Will and other extraordinary Nazi movies, but he was also directing Greta Garbo. And these parts are real, but this is obviously a fictionalized version, and you get inside the head of this man and the things he's dealing with. It's a fantastic book.
Oh, wow. I have to read that one.
Yeah.
Sounds like some of the same challenges that Furtwängler had.
Yes.
The conductor
Yes.
and staying there at that time. It's funny, sometimes these things seem so abstract, but, right now we're dealing with the issue of a lot of people deciding where they're going to plant their flag and what they're going to do.
Right.
And I guess there's probably no better way to celebrate the choices that we have in terms of putting on a concert like you're doing, which is kind of off the grid.
Yeah.
It's not what most people do, and you can read in art. You can read anything the way that you want to read it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a personal story that is affecting us right now. There's a festival that I run in Newport, Oregon, every year in October, and I had similar thinking. I had people from all across, the ethnic lines, you name it, and I had 2 musicians from Europe. I wanted to bring them in. Again, to kind of make a point, you know. So I had this great drummer from Denmark and a bass player from Sweden. Now this is for October. They called me 2 months ago. The drummer from Denmark told me that even 2 months ago, and this hasn't even made the news, the Danish government was advising citizens not to travel here because some of them were being turned away at customs and sent back home. Really? So they had to beg off from doing the tour.
It's incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Just 2 days ago in the news, there was a guy from the Czech Republic that got turned away. His papers were in order, everything. But then they decided to look through his phone. Maybe they saw a couple posts that were anti-U.S. government, you know. And nowadays, they have the ability to brand them as possible terrorists, you know, for just that, thinking things.
Yeah.
We're at that point,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
What song were we going to play?
Oh yeah,
No,
music.
This
Yes,
is an inside joke because the name of the tune is.
it's easy to remember.
So I've been giving.
But I do have a special reason for this song, because you, my friend, introduced me because you were music director for the great Bobby Short, who,
Gosh.
as most people know, New York institution, put the Cafe Carlyle on the map, and amongst other great things he did, I met him once at Sylvia's because we've talked about this. He once gave me almost a 45-minute discourse on the greatest places for mac and cheese in New York and why. And one of them was Sylvia, so I met him there. But you knew him very well, and I remember one night at the Carlyle, he asked me to do a duet with him, and I picked that song, and we wound up recording it.
Oh, wow.
That's for him and for you, because
That was extraordinary because, you know, the show with Bobby was kind of always set. And he made it seem like the first time every set, you know, like this, you know. But the truth was it was set. That was the only night in the 10 years that we were there where he asked somebody who was in the band to come up and play a duet. So clearly he thought a lot of you. So,
all right,
Can
here we
I
go.
improvise for a second here?
Yes.
yeah. Sure.
Before you guys play again, do we want to see if anybody in the audience has a question?
Oh, good
Yeah, so I
idea.
was gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you were going to do it later?
But
Okay.
I think we should do it now.
Why not? Anybody
Any
got a question?
questions? Okay.
Anything.
Comments, questions?
question.
Please.
Earlier on, you mentioned about the Rockefeller mention.
Yes,
That-
the event is.
Right. And I wanted to know where, maybe you said it, I don't know, where?
So it's a place called Pocantico, and it's in Tarrytown.
Oh, in Tarrytown,
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
And are we going to be able to stream it, or will we have it archived?
I think we're streaming it on the National Jazz Museum.
Oh, good.
Ah, nice.
Oh, great. So, because it is sold out, which is wonderful
Oh.
and not surprising. But
You never know.
if you if you can't get there, look for it on the National Jazz Museum of Harlem.
Absolutely. And the
Website.
Metro North goes up there, doesn't
It
Oh,
does.
it's a
It
short
does.
train trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can get an Uber directly over to the place. But you'll see the listing for this on their website, on the National Jazz Museum website. So you'll get more
Okay.
information.
So it's easy to remember, Rodgers and Hart.
was the name of that again?
Oh boy, we've known each other for too long. But Rodgers and Hart, he was quite a genius, Richard Rodgers.
He was good.
He was good, yeah. But no, he could write the most simple music. For example, he wrote, for example, there's a song called The Blue Room that for musicians out there, it's just the F scale. There's no sharps, there's no accidentals in the song. And then the bridge. Almost like an exercise. And it's still a great song. And then he could write something so sophisticated like the song we just played. He was an amazing musician.
And from Harlem, interestingly enough. Born and raised right near him. What are we going to hear on, I know, circling back to where we began, and to kind of bring the whole thing back together, what can we expect to hear in this concert? Is it going to be a different group on each tune? Is it going to be duos or trios? Is it going to be, what's the plan?
Okay, so I've kind of divided approximately 2 1-hour halves of the concert. And so it's divided up into effectively 20-minute sets by each little combination. So for example, it starts with Randy Brecker, Otto Ravazzi, and rhythm section. I don't remember at this point, there's been so much involved with this show that I don't remember who's playing piano on that first show. It's either Ehuda Sherry or Rosato Sportiello, but either way, they're in good hands. And then Bruce is going to join Randy with the 2 trumpets. They'll play some songs together, which will be interesting for me, and I'm sure for the audience. I'm not sure they have performed together before. And then
And with the rhythm section, I take it.
yes, with the rhythm section. And then I have a set with Rosano and Willie Jones that will hark back to those days of Teddy Wilson and Benny Goodman and G. Krupa. And, because Rosano was maybe one of the few on the planet that can really do that well and still sound like himself. He doesn't sound like he's imitating anybody. So we've got that. Mariel Bildstein.
Now, who is Mario Bildstein? That's the name I don't know.
Well, I've heard her. She's in New York. I heard her at a festival in North Carolina, and I was just knocked out. Wonderful trombonist, really nice person, and a really great arranger. And I heard some sets she did for a 6-piece group. So I asked her if she'd bring some of those arrangements for that performance. So that set will be her, Bruce Harris, and Otto Ravazzi. And then Brianna Thomas will sing. I think I'm leaving out somebody. Because originally we had a Brazilian guitarist on the group, and I think I promised Ellie that we'd still keep in a Brazilian element. So Ehuda, who is married to a Brazilian woman, and he knows Portuguese and he knows all that music back. And so we're going to do one homage to Jobim in there. And of course, like the old concerts, like those Norman Granz Jazz at the Phil concerts, and George Wein always did this, there will be a big number at the end with everybody involved. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fabulous.
Well, are there any questions or comments? Just we want to make sure it's open. Okay. We want to thank, first of all, the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation for choosing the Jazz Museum, frankly, to be the presenting organization and to be very, very much involved in it.
We are really grateful for your partnership. We really are. It's been great.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
yeah.
And the artist, well, it all starts with you
It does.
and ends with you. So Ken, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for putting together this incredible concert. And we hope to see you all there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Stephen, Ken, let's give our guests one more
Lauren,
round of applause.
Thanks for having us here.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was fun.
Good night. I felt like we were just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Have lunch or dinner.